It's never too early for a little bit of technophobia. So getting back into some classic Doctor Who, and this one was selected by poll, voted on by my supporters on Patreon. Feel free to join over there at any tier. You do get to vote in polls and see my docket for what I plan to do at the start of every month. I don't always stick to it, but you'll get to see what the plan is at least. In any case, this time I'm taking a look at The War Machines. This is a first Doctor story I had not seen before. I haven't seen that many First Doctor. I've still got a lot of classic Who to get through. But this is one that sees the Doctor and a companion by the name of Dodo, showing up in then contemporary London, where a scientist has built a fabulous new computer called Wotan. And Wotan is the most sophisticated piece of software ever is running on this computer. It's not the biggest, but it's the best. And it thinks for itself. And naturally, when a computer starts thinking for itself, what conclusion will it come to? Humans should be subjugated. Machines should control things. Of course, that's what always happens. I mean, granted, it's a concept that wasn't quite as run into the ground in the 1960s as it is now. But yeah, that's what we're doing here. So there's a number of things going on in this one. And it's okay. So overall, I appreciate some of the ambition of this, but it wears its limitations on its sleeve at the same time. I'll talk about some of the specifics of how that works. But firstly, I mentioned the companion character of Dodo. So I haven't seen her before. I don't know where she comes from, but that whole thing is handled very weird. So apparently, like this was going to be her last serial. That was always planned. The thing was, her contract was up 2 episodes in. So at the end of the second episode, she gets knocked out and basically goes, oh, she needs to go recover off screen somewhere. And at the very end, a message is passed along to the Doctor. Oh, she's just going to stay here. So don't worry about her. She will never be brought up again. It's real clunky. And we have our new companions. We have Ben and Polly, who I have encountered before because I've seen, is it Evil of the Daleks? Whatever the second Doctor was. Well, technically I've seen the animated recreation of it. But I think I've got a review up for that. Link in the corner if I do. No link if I don't. Then I look like a fool. But I'll still leave this in because I'm lazy when I edit the break room videos. It's the break room. It's supposed to be laid back. Anyways, focus. Come on. So Ben and Polly get introduced. Polly is the secretary to, it's either one of the scientists or one of the military people who is either involved in or aware of the Wotan project. And then Ben is a sailor that she meets at a bar. But they have a decent rapport with each other. Neither of them get to spend a ton of time with the Doctor. All said and done, but they both have a good energy, and I think they make good new companions just based off that alone. So they get introduced here, but so I mentioned there's a certain ambition to this. So, for instance, the titular War Machines, which are these big tank-ish looking things, they're actually decently impressive for the time, because since it's not trying to be an organic alien, it's a machine. It's fine that you can see the nuts and bolts. You can see what's holding it together because in universe, it was put together by human beings. So that gives them a lot of leeway right off the bat. And in terms of motion, and it has like sort of this hammer arm that it swings down and it fires. I can never tell with really early Doctor Who if it's meant to be firing a gas or if the gas that comes out of its gun thing is meant to indicate like a projectile was fired, but you just can't see it. I think in this case, it is actually gas. It's hard to tell sometimes though, with the way some of the actors who get hit with it respond. They respond more like they're being shot. I don't know. Whatever. But like it's decently sized. It moves around pretty well. It works as a tank, as a threat. It's pretty decently functional. There was only one of them. They pretend there's 12. They just swap the number that's on it. Which, that's a cheap solution that I can admire. So when I say it wears its limitations on its sleeve, that's not what I'm talking about. That's kind of adorable. But what I mean by that is we hear an awful lot about stuff going on just off screen over the phone. There is quite a bit of this story that is made up of characters on the phone repeating the words being said to them by the person on the other end and just relaying, oh, this is going on? What's happening? In the street? How many? That kind of thing. And not those exact words, but that kind of thing happens a fair bit. And it's very obviously a cost-cutting measure, but boy, is it immediately evident. Wotan as a villain is not great because it is just a computer bank, ultimately. It has no personality. Now, it's not intended to, so it's not like when an actor plays a villain and has no personality. That's a failure of acting. Well, sometimes writing, too. Here, it's pretty much strictly just a function of the fact that it's a machine. It's not going to have a personality. It is that monotone thing. It is weird, though, because it does actually call the Doctor Doctor Who. And, often enough that it's not a fluke, or it's not like the way the sentence is structured. His minions are, we must capture Doctor Who. I was like, wait, what? What? I don't know if that's the first time that ever happened in the show or not, but it stood out. It was an odd moment. But yeah, Wotan's just this computer bank with this occasional voice, and for some reason, hypnosis, which is, I get it. It's an easy way to have it having minions, but this is probably an overly ambitious wish. But given that, I don't get how in the hell a computer's supposed to hypnotize anybody, especially since it can do it over the phone. I will acknowledge it has a rudimentary understanding of computers being linked up to each other over the phone. So actually has an understanding at least of that being a thing. So that's kind of cool for the 60s. But so there's that. But the fact that it's just this hypnosis thing, for all intents and purposes, it could have been anything that was just using people to build it weapons. It didn't have to be a computer, it just happened to be a computer. But the fact that a computer does very little to inform its actions. It's building weapons to take over the world, like any number of things could have done. So I guess it would have been nice if the fact that it was a computer was more baked into its actions and or the premise of things. Whereas, like I said, I feel like you could have swapped Wotan out for any number of other threats and just given them hypnotic abilities and it would have functioned the exact same. Heck, it could have been a friggin' carnival barker who has mastered hypnosis and is getting these scientists to do what he wants. Functionally, the story would have been exactly the same. So there is that. I will say, though, there's a really interesting moment early on with Wotan that sort of illustrates to the Doctor that this thing actually might be too smart for its own good, which was a cool moment. So when the Doctor and Dodo first meet Wotan, and the Doctor's like, calculate for me the square root of blah, 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 whatever. And of course, the thing does it. It's on this little printout. But then Dodo goes, oh, try this one. You won't get it. What does TARDIS mean? And it spits out time and relative dimension in space. There's no way that computer should have known that. And the fact that it does is a bit of a, oh, wait a minute moment. Unfortunately, it doesn't really go anywhere. The fact that it knows what the TARDIS is pretty insignificant. But it is a cool moment in and of itself. I quite like that. Coming back to Ben and Polly real quick, I appreciated that Polly was allowed to be, sort of young and energetic. She wants to go to clubs. I mean, that's how she and Dodo initially meet Ben. They're like, let's go clubbing. And I like that, Polly is, loose going and energetic and just seems to have that youthful energy. But at the same time, when some guy comes up to her and he's like, hey, I'll dance with you or whatever, she's like, buzz off. Now, ultimately, Ben does have to pull that guy off her because, what else is he gonna do? But I just appreciated that it was an acknowledgement. Like, she's here to have fun. Doesn't mean she's here to have fun with every jerk that turns up. It was decent. There's actually kind of an overall undercurrent of youth and authority of age. There's an awful lot of aging authority figures in this who are constantly underestimating the intent, the thoughtfulness, the honesty, and the motivation of the young people in the story, which is primarily the companions. But just in general, I noticed that as an overall running thread. I also thought it was kind of interesting and possibly an unintentional thing, but I liked it all the same, which is that the Doctor and the companions, at one point towards the end, either the end of the first episode or the start of the second one, I forget which it is, but they encounter this homeless guy. You know, he's getting out of a cab. He can't pay for the cab. They actually pay for it for him, so he's able to head out. This guy's obviously, he's had a very run of bad luck, but he ends up getting killed, and his body is found. It's in the newspaper the next day, and the Doctor spots it. And he's like, wait a minute. I recognize him. Something's wrong here. But even though it wasn't necessarily emphasized in the way I'm about to say, I kind of like the idea that, yeah, it made the newspaper, but just because a body was found, not because anybody cares about this guy. And nobody else had noticed. Like, even Ben later on gets pointed out, and it has to be noted by the Doctor, like, don't you recognize him? Like, nobody's regarding this dead homeless person other than the Doctor. And I kind of like that. Again, I suspect possibly unintentional, but I do like that. Oh, there's one thing I loved. This has possibly my new favorite single shot of the first Doctor. And one of my new favorites of Classic Who altogether. End of episode 3, when the War Machine is like, it's barreling out of this warehouse. For some reason, the Commando's guns aren't working. I don't think they ever explained why they weren't working. They're not, for some reason. And you have this shot that's all these military people and these commandos and whatnot running away past the Doctor. And the Doctor initially just stands there and then starts moving forward. It's great. It feels like the Doctor in a nutshell sometimes. Not always. The Doctor can and will run away, but some incarnations of the Doctor very much deliberately don't. And this is a moment for the first Doctor to not run away at all, and it's awesome. Overall, though, this is just kind of okay. The villain's a little bit undercooked. The settings are well used. The characters are pretty good. You can tell the budgetary limitations really well on this, but that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it of its time and of its budget. But it's pretty decent. Not amazing, but I'd say on the better end of the first Doctor stuff I've seen. Not anything that I'd be like, ooh, I want to be sure I get this on physical media. Definitely don't ever want to lose track of that. No, it's fine. I'm glad I saw it, though. There are enough good moments and aspects and characters in it that, yeah, I dig it. So, The War Machines. You seen it? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I already plugged the Patreon. Don't have to do it again. But like, share, subscribe. Help me out as well if you're able to do that. But even if you can't, don't worry too much about it. Take a relaxed attitude around here, as I noted earlier, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. Hey, end credits time, which means I need to shout out some patrons. This time I'm going to be shouting out Robin Moore, Zubin Litfala, Tarak, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Imudelki, Leo the Boy, TT, Fernobulax the Poodle, Zach Paul, Eidolon, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Casperl, Toku BL Hoovian, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. You want to hear me mispronounce your name? Check out rewards on the Patreon. Thanks for all your support.